This is Career Composer. I'm Erin, and I'm helping you, professionals under 30, navigate your careers with a music-themed twist. I'm giving you the job search and career advice you need to get that job, but we'll also talk about music, how to balance our personal and professional lives, and figure out what we're meant to do. Ready? Let's go. Happy New Year and welcome back. I am your host, Erin Ahart, and this is Career Composer, where I'm helping professionals under 30 navigate your careers with a music-themed twist. If you're new here, I'm a full-time career counselor in Washington, D.C., also in my 20s, sharing the career advice that I would want for myself and also talking about music. Today is a very special day because we're kicking off our episodes for the year. I'm so excited about what I have planned for you guys this year. But I also have another very important announcement, which is that our very first themed Career Composer playlist is live, our Interview Hype playlist. Of course, we already have our Master Career Composer playlist, but these other themed playlists were part of my original plan to build our Career Composer repertoire or music library, if you will. It's my goal just to build a ton of different career-themed playlists that can help you with whatever situation you're in. This Interview Hype playlist was created with recs from friends, some of the recs that you all have submitted, and it really has something for everyone. You'll be able to tell that I've really been getting into hip hop lately, which has been really fun. I've also found that hip hop is amazing for running on the treadmill because a lot of the beats in hip hop go perfectly with running about 5 to 6.5 miles per hour. I don't know, maybe this is common knowledge, but I just figured this out. This also might be a good time to share. One of the tips that I give people who are struggling with interview anxiety is to create a routine and habits that you can implement both while you're preparing for the interview and on the day of your interview. This new Interview Hype playlist will hopefully get you amped up, excited on that day. But if you also listen to this playlist or other music that you enjoy while you prepare for the interview, you'll feel that way when you practice too. The goal is for your interview routine to feel familiar and something that makes you happy. And that's the science behind why it's good to practice for your interview with the same routine and listen to that music or implement that same routine on the day of your interview that morning. I plan to do an episode on interview anxiety in the future, and I also know that some people prefer more calming music as they prepare, so we'll add a more calm interview prep playlist soon, which leads me to my next agenda item. Our next episode, 2 weeks from now, will be your interview prep checklist, where I'm going over everything you need to check off the list to ensure that you're ready to go for your interview, whether it's in person or virtual. It's kind of like when you're packing for vacation and you can't figure out just what you're missing. This list is to make sure that that doesn't happen to you before your interview. The links to our new Interview Hype playlist and all other information is in the show notes below. Please follow us on Instagram at Career Composer if you liked this episode and you want to stay up to date and get some other supplemental career information that is all meant to help you grow in your career. Let's get right into the episode, guys. Opening acts and how to answer "Tell me about yourself" in an interview. The prelude is our music appetizer to our career content. If you want to get right into our career topic, how to answer "Tell me about yourself" in an interview, the timestamp is in the show notes below. But today, music is kind of woven throughout the episode because there are a lot of similarities between opening acts, how openers set the stage for the main event, and how you can set yourself up perfectly for the rest of your interview. Our discussion about opening acts reminded me of an event that I went to pretty soon after moving to DC, and it was a part of a music event startup called So Far Sounds. So Far Sounds started in London. It's now in cities across the United States. Washington, D.C., Boston, Chicago, Seattle, Atlanta, L.A., Nashville, New York City, Denver, Houston, Austin, and in each city, they host concerts in random places with 3 artists or so who are local to that area. There's no opener or headliner, and each artist gets equal time. These events are pretty inexpensive. I believe they're around $25, but I'm not completely sure. I didn't pay for my ticket because the person I went with knew one of the performers. But what's really cool about So Far Sounds is that you don't know where the show is being held until a few days before. They just give you the general location or neighborhood within that city, and you also don't know which artists are performing. So it's a very secret, very mysterious kind of event, but it's also very safe, so please don't worry about that. The one I went to was in a really nice hotel in an event space. There was a wine bar, people showing you where to go. We also sat on the floor, and that's common at most SoFar shows from what I've heard. So there were string lights and a ton of people brought blankets. A lot of people were going there on first dates. It was just a really cute, cozy vibe. Artists who played at SoFar Sounds before are Teddy Swims, Leon Bridges, Yebba, all three of those I absolutely love, Ed Sheeran, Billie Eilish, Hozier, Wolf Alice, Andra Day, Noah Cyrus, Anderson East, all before they became really famous. I wanted to share this because opening acts are often up-and-coming artists who are playing for a headliner who has a similar vibe or sound, which helps them gain fans. SoFar Sounds is a really cool way to support 3 local artists who may not be as well known yet. And if you tell your friends that you go to these secret concerts, you'll also sound really artsy and cool. One thing I forgot to mention is that SoFar, SOFAR, is kind of a shortened version of Songs from a Room. So all of these artists are playing in just one room with their audience, a really intimate, connected feel with the audience. And so today I'm highlighting some SoFar Sounds artists for you guys. The first is Infinity Song. This is a family band of 2 brothers and 2 sisters based in New York City. My favorite song is Hater's Anthem. Sinking Boat and I Want You Back are also very popular, but Infinity Song just has such a unique sound that sounds a cappella in a lot of ways. This is not an a cappella band, but the reason I say that is because of the way that they use unison and harmonies to create just really unique, unexpected sounds. I'm not really sure that I've heard anything like them before, and I really love the song Hater's Anthem. The artist who I saw in person is Juliette Lloyd. This is the artist who my friend knew when we went. I'm adding her song High Road to the playlist. I really enjoy her songwriting. And then next we have Wolf Alice. The songs by this artist are Don't Delete the Kisses and No Hard Feelings. I also mentioned that Teddy Swims played at SoFar Sounds. Of course, I love the song Lose Control, but the song Some Things I'll Never Know is just so gorgeous. I feel like it doesn't get as much airtime because it's a little depressing, but there's also a version of this song that he did with Maren Morris. I might add a couple more Teddy songs to the playlist. I also learned recently that his name Swims, his stage name, Teddy Swims, is an acronym for Someone Who Isn't Me Sometimes. His new album comes out on January 24th, so definitely follow him. Watch out for that new album. I'm sure it's going to be insane. Now on to our career content. How to answer Tell Me About Yourself in an interview. We can't talk about how to answer the Tell Me About Yourself question without first talking about how to open up the interview itself in the first place. That's essentially what this question is. You're opening up the conversation, introducing who you are as a professional, and setting the stage for the rest of the interview. You're manipulating the other players on the court so you can go right in for the layup and just give them a taste of what's to come when you absolutely crush the rest of your interview, like I know you guys will. And just like opening acts, you have a couple of jobs to do. Know your audience, why they're here, and what they want. Second, promote the show. Give them a glimpse of what they're about to see from you. Over-deliver. Opening acts have this really unique opportunity to gain new fans by opening for a more famous musician. This means that they're playing their best songs, and you're highlighting your most relevant, most impressive skills and experience in this question. Most importantly, your job is to get the crowd excited for the main event. And what does this mean for you, the interviewee? First, when you step into that interview room, whether it's Zoom or in person, you are greeting them with a smile. If it's in person and you feel comfortable, shake the interviewer's hands. Show them with your body language that you're excited and ready to give them what they came for. I promise you, these people are hoping that you are the candidate of their dreams, and they want to leave your interview feeling so relieved that they finally found the right candidate. They don't want you to fail. If they did, this would be a huge waste of their time. At this point, you also know exactly who the audience is already. You've done your research and you know the job description and the company's mission, vision, and purpose inside and out. And this is all because you will have listened to our next episode 2 weeks from now, which is an interview prep checklist that applies across all industries. In a second, we'll talk about how to work this research and knowledge into your Tell Me About Yourself answer. However, despite knowing what the audience wants, you don't know how many people are going to be there. You don't know if they're going to be friendly, cold, or tired from the other interviews they've already had that day or that week. Famous musicians are often nothing like our vision of them, and you don't know how the hiring committee is going to start the interview either. Interviews can be completely unpredictable, especially in the beginning of the conversation. I found that interviews are most often started in one of two ways. The first possibility is that the interview is super formal. They might briefly say something generic like, "Thank you for your interest in our company," and immediately begin the interview by saying, "And our first question for you is, tell me about yourself." As a side note, if the interview is this formal, there's also a slight possibility that they skip the "tell me about yourself" question altogether. Not to scare you guys, but I really don't hope for this situation. It's kind of my worst nightmare. But because of that, I created the perfect response so myself, my students, and you all who are listening today are never put in a tricky situation again. If this happens, they skip the "tell me about yourself" question and they go right into a different question they have for you. You would simply say, "Absolutely, that's a great question, and thank you again for this opportunity. Before I answer, I'd love to first share a little bit about myself and why I believe I'm a great fit for this role." Then give them a slightly shortened version of what you prepared for "tell me about yourself," about a 30-second elevator pitch, and then transition to the question they actually asked you by saying, "And in response to your original question, ... and then you would get right into it. The second possibility is what I personally hope for, and it's what I've found is the most common. The interviewers greet you as normal, they're enthusiastic about you being there, and they start by going around the room and introducing themselves first. They might even share a little bit more information about the position and the company. Then they'll either directly invite you to introduce yourself, or there will be a pause after they've all gone around the room. If they're going around the room introducing themselves and everyone has gone except for you, this pause implies that it's now your turn to share. In this case, you would say, "And my name is so-and-so," and go right into saying what you would say for the "tell me about yourself" question. If you go around the room doing introductions, they're not going to ask you the "tell me about yourself" question directly. Your introduction in that moment was already your answer to the "tell me about yourself" question. But no matter how the interview starts in any of these scenarios, whether it's formal or informal, or they explicitly ask you to tell them about yourself, or they just go around the room doing introductions, you want to give the same exact answer that you plan to give for the "tell me about yourself" question. This is your chance to make a great first impression by highlighting your most relevant, most impressive skills and experience. But it's also the only question in the entire interview that you pretty much know for a fact they're going to ask. And you really need to answer it. The reason why is because it's the buffer between when you first entered the room and you met them and when you have to be on your A game ready to answer questions later in the interview that you can't always predict. This is your chance to get your nerves out, say what you plan to say, and again, set yourself up for success for the rest of your interview. Finally, no matter how this question is asked or what the vibes are in the interview room, I know it's easier said than done, but don't let how the interview starts keep you from your best. When you start speaking, take a deep breath and start slow and controlled. If you can just take that deep breath to collect yourself and have some sense of control over your speech, you will come across as more confident even if you don't feel like it. Make sure you smile and sit up straight so you appear more confident, of course, but so you can also breathe deeply. For my singers out there, you all know that we're not supposed to cross our arms or sit down when we're singing because it collapses our diaphragm, so you're supposed to stand. When you're in the interview, the best thing you can do is sit up straight and don't cross your arms. So, how do you actually craft your response to the "tell me about yourself" question? Every good answer to the "tell me about yourself" question has a few key characteristics, the main one being that it's not too short and not too long. I recommend talking anywhere from 1 to 2 minutes. I've heard other people recommend a 20 to 30-second elevator speech, but that's really just not enough time to share all the things that you would need to share in the context of an interview. On the other hand, 5 minutes is way too long, so I would time yourself and really try to keep it under 2 minutes. The second key characteristic of your answer is that by the end of your answer, the interviewer should know who you are. Included in that is where you are in the present tense, what you've done or where you've been in the past tense, and where you're going in the future. How can you do that? By following the present, past, future model. Present comes first, not the past like you might think. For present, start by saying your name, and then describe your current roles. Remember that your roles can be a lot of different things. Your primary role is most likely that you are working in a full or a part-time job. Or if you're a student, then you would state your role as a student studying XYZ subject at your college or university. But your roles can also include research, unpaid or volunteer work you're doing, professional organizations you're involved in, a specific project you're working on, and this can even be an independent project outside of work or school, certifications you're working towards. Basically, your roles are anything you are currently doing right now that somehow relates to your career. But there are also plenty of other things you can share when explaining who you are in the present. You can talk about your interests within the field, key areas of expertise or specialization, some of your top skills. You have a lot to choose from here. But while I'm giving you these options to show all that you can say, remember that you don't have to say all of them. You've got an entire interview in front of you. You'll have many more chances to expand on what you've shared or mention something you forgot to say throughout your conversation. So choose what you want to share in your Tell Me About Yourself answer based on what they're looking for in the job description and the experience you have that's most relevant, most recent, or that you're most proud of. If you're nervous, maybe your heart's racing as you get settled into the beginning of your interview, I know it can be really tempting to regurgitate your entire resume and say everything you could possibly plan to say in your interview because you have a fear of forgetting something. Believe me, I've been there. I've done that exact same thing myself. But guess what? When you do tell them everything from the start, you risk overwhelming them with information, because that's possible too. It can be very overwhelming for an interviewer to try and retain information about someone they just met, all while trying to figure out what's important and what's not. It's much more likely that they'll forget everything you've just told them if you tell them everything. Your job is to set the stage and promote the show. Give them a glimpse of what they're about to see from you. By giving them the highlights instead of giving them everything, now you've gotten the crowd excited. Now we're moving on to the past, but in a little bit, you'll hear how I would answer this question incorporating the entire present, past, future model. And I also asked a friend to call in and share how he would answer Tell Me About Yourself in a completely different industry. So just a little FYI that we do have some examples coming later. For the past, depending on how much detail you gave for your present roles, you might lengthen or shorten this section just a little bit. If you don't currently have a job, you're going to focus more on past experience. If you have a phenomenal job right now that's extremely relevant to the role you're applying for, focus more on the present and dive into that a little bit more. For the past, this is not about sharing your entire life story. Rather, it's about being intentional and sharing what they will actually care about. Nothing's more annoying than that musician who talks in between every single song about how amazing it is to be there and how much they love that city that they just so happen to be playing in that day. You just want the artist to get to the music and sing the song. So for you, what are the highlights that are most relevant to the role you're interviewing for? And again, which are the most relevant or impressive and will leave them wanting to know more about you? If you have a lot of relevant experience, you could highlight a couple of the roles that gave you the relevant skills or had a big impact on who you are as a professional. If you have experience that is not directly related to the role, you could mention how this experience diversified your skill set and gave you something unique that not every applicant is going to offer. And if you feel that you have no experience at all, which I can assure you is not the case, I talk to students every single day in my day job who think they have no experience, and then I ask them a couple of clarifying questions, and it turns out we can fill an entire page on a resume. But even if this is true and you literally have zero experience, still find a way to tell a story. Even if you do have lots of relevant experience, telling a relevant story could also work for you and make you stand out. How did you become interested in the field? What story could give them an idea of the kind of person you are and how you show up in the workplace? Maybe a story that showcases some of your key skills. I personally love learning about how people become interested in their field and what drives their passion for what they do. It's a really easy way for the hiring committee to learn more about you, but also in our personal lives, people are drawn to others who bring excitement and joy to the conversation. So that's your clue to bring your passion into your answer. And last but not least, the future. Where are you going and how does this position fit into your career goals? Why are you here in this interview at this very moment? One really easy way to start this part of your answer is, I'm interested in this position because ... In order to share where you're going and how this position truly fits into your goals, you have to start by telling them why you're interested. Maybe you're interested because the job description perfectly matches your interests. Maybe you want to work for a certain kind of company and you're interested because you felt a deep connection to the company's mission and values. Maybe you're interested because this position will allow you to gain skills and experiences that will help you achieve your long-term career goal. Do you see how in all of these scenarios, your interest in them is because what they can offer you somehow connects to who you are and what you want in the future in some way? To make this even more clear, you really only have two choices when sharing why you're interested in them in this part of your answer. To say that you're here, one, because you want to do something that interests you or work for a company you're interested in, or two, because this position will help you gain skills and experiences that fit into a larger career goal you have for yourself. Honestly, I really can't think of any other options you have here. Any other option runs the risk of you saying, I need a job, versus I want this specific job. And you never want to come across like you're just trying to get out of your current situation. And that is the present, past, future model. Before we get to our examples, I want to recognize that my style is giving you guys all the information you could ever possibly need so you don't have any questions. However, I know that can be a lot for some people. So if the present, past, future model is too much for you, you're thinking, OMG, I did not know so much goes into just telling them about myself. It seems like such a simple question. Here's another way to think about it. Introduce yourself and your role, part-time, full-time role, or student. Then list 3 to 5 other things about yourself that are relevant to the role or are the most impressive things you've done in your career so far. Start with the most relevant. That's typically the most recent, but that's not required. And list the other things in order of relevance after that. Throw in a sentence about why you're passionate about your field or the work you do, and wrap it up by telling them why you're interested in the position. I promise if you start practicing, you will get there. I find it really helps to practice out loud so you can feel how your answer flows, whether it sounds natural or if it sounds too forced. And some of you also might be wondering, how should I introduce my current roles if I don't have a job right now and if I'm not a student? In this case, I would consider flip-flopping the past and present and start with the past. This way, you're starting strong and confident with what you've already done, and that experience then serves as evidence for the other things you share about yourself that you bring in the present, like your knowledge, skills, strengths, personality traits, without you having to list a current role. At this point, they've already seen your resume. They really should know that you're not currently employed, but it also doesn't hurt to explain why you're unemployed after you finish sharing all of the other impressive skills, experiences, and other qualities that you bring. They might ask you outright about this anyway, so it just always helps to have an answer prepared. All right, guys, I promised you some examples, so here they are. For each example, try to listen for the past, present, future model. So we'll start with mine, and then we'll go to my friend Matt. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. Again, my name is Erin Ahart. I'm a career counselor and career development professional currently working at XYZ University. In my current role, I had the pleasure of doing what I absolutely love, which is helping students identify and work towards their career goals, primarily through delivering workshops and coaching master's and PhD students in one-on-one appointments. I'm also extremely passionate about career content development, so I started my own podcast and freelance career coaching business called Career Composer. In my previous role, I planned large-scale career events for Salem State University, and I worked there full-time while I completed my Master's of Education degree in Higher Education and Student Affairs. 2 highlights from my time at Salem State are that I became a Gallup Certified Clifton Strengths Coach and had the opportunity to speak on Channel 7 News and WBZ Radio about a Career Closet event that I helped plan, which provided Salem State University students with access to more than 2,000 free professional attire items. This experience, as well as my leadership and content development and my natural entrepreneurial spirit, these all helped me realize that I really value having a broad impact, which is one of the reasons why I'm so interested in this position as Associate Director for Career Development. This is truly a unique opportunity for me to combine my skills and really do what I do best and create exciting new initiatives that will expand access to career education at your university. I'm really looking forward to the rest of our conversation today and learning even more about the role. Okay, so what went well in that answer? The first thing you might have noticed is how I said my name and how I said thank you again, assuming that you've already shaken hands and said thank you for having me, especially if this is an in-person interview. I personally like saying my name so people know how to pronounce it, and because you literally can't get your own name wrong, so you already have a freebie right in the beginning. I say thank you again because it's polite, but also because it's another buffer that gives you a second to think and breathe before going into the meat of your response. Next, I shared my current roles. I chose my full-time job and my career composer business. Then I walked the interviewers through my recent past, sharing that I worked full-time while completing my Master's of Education degree, and sharing the two most impressive highlights from my previous role. I talked about how my past experience combined with my skills are not only why I'm interested in this new role, but I hinted at the fact that I'm likely the best person for the role because I used the phrase, do what I do best. I also chose that particular phrase because it has to do with my Gallup Global Strengths Coach certification, so if anyone on the panel were a certified strengths coach, they would see that reference there. I also took it up a notch and really tried to come across as confident, because if you're applying for a leadership position or a position like an associate director position, part of interviewing for a role that's at or above your level is speaking as if you already operate on that level. I have a lot more to say about this. This will be an entirely different episode, but I also just wanted to touch on that. We also talked about how opening acts over-deliver. This is just a friendly reminder to not over-deliver in terms of the amount of content you share, but with how you deliver your content with control, confidence, excitement, and energy. You might have also noticed that I ended my answer with the sentence, "I'm really looking forward to our conversation today and learning even more about the role." This kind of transition sentence isn't always necessary, but it's helpful if you struggle with how to end your answers and with wrapping it up. And it clearly signals that you're done speaking, at least just for the tell me about yourself question. You could also say something like, "I look forward to sharing more about my experience and qualifications with you in our conversation today." You could say that instead. Okay, everyone, I would now like to welcome my friend Matt Norawong to share how he would answer "Tell me about yourself" in an interview. I actually had no idea he was going to come on this particular episode, but it's so fitting because he's the one I went to the So Far Sounds concert with and who personally knows the artist we saw, Juliette Lloyd. Matt's going to share how he would answer "Tell me about yourself" in his industry and also give you guys a couple music recs. So get excited and let's hear what Matt has to say.
Hi, everybody. My name is Matthew Norawong. I'm one of Erin's friends, and I'm also a big fan of Career Composer, which is why I'm super excited to be here today to show you all how I would answer the question, "Tell me a little bit about yourself." So a little bit about myself. I'm 27 years old. I currently live in Washington, D.C. I moved here about 3 or 4 years ago from Seattle, Washington, and I currently work as a public affairs manager for the Pharmaceutical Research and Manufacturers of America, otherwise known as PhRMA, which is the trade group that represents branded pharmaceutical companies in the United States. Part of my responsibilities include science and regulatory communications, so I do a lot of work on vaccines, anti-obesity medicines, innovative pipelines, and I also help oversee our patient advocacy program called Voters for Cures, which is a network of about 8,500 caregiver and patient voices throughout the United States. And part of the reason why I really love my job is that I too am a patient. So I was born with congenital cataracts, which over the years evolved into a very aggressive form of glaucoma, which essentially took sight out of my left eye. But because of a new treatment that was approved in the early 2000s, I was able to get on it. And it was, for the most part, stabilized my condition and has allowed me to live as close to a normal, productive, and as happy life as possible, and also helped me avoid total blindness. So I'm really thankful that every single day I get to get up and go to a job that allows me to fight for a policy and regulatory environment that helps protect access to innovative treatments of today while also ensuring cures of tomorrow. So outside of my 9 to 5, I too am a musician. I primarily play bass guitar. I started when I was in middle school. I took a little bit of a break in high school and college, but then picked it back up during the pandemic. I currently play in a band called Pagoda Peak, which recently just released our third or so EP. And I also just started a new side project called Haldy, which I'm really excited to do some new things with next year. I'm a big advocate of having some sort of hobby or some sort of passion that you can really fall back onto outside of your 9 to 5 life. And for me, that's music, but for other people, it could be a sport, it could be an activity, whether it's like jigsaw puzzles or cooking. I'm all for having some sort of passion. I was asked by Erin to recommend a song to add to the Career Composer playlist. I'm going to cheat a little bit. So I have two. The first one is Just Like Heaven by The Cure. It was one of the very first songs I ever learned how to play on an instrument. Everything is there. It's melodic, it's simple, it's like 4 chords. And it really just showed me that you don't need to be an expert on music theory to write a really great song. The next song I'm going to recommend is called No Fun by Blink-182. It's off their new comeback album called One More Time. And I think that it's essentially about, living out your glory days in your adulthood and some of the problems that you might face as a young adult. So I think that there is no better fitting song for this podcast than that. Thank you all, and looking forward to the episode.
So first of all, let's give Matt a huge round of applause. His story blew me away, and he shared his connection to the field and sounded so natural, yet he still included all of the relevant information he needed to and ended with this statement. I'm really thankful that every single day I get up and go to a job that allows me to fight for a policy and regulatory environment that helps protect access to innovative treatments of today while also ensuring the cures of tomorrow. What the heck? Wow. So the only thing Matt didn't do was talk about the future or how the position he's interviewing for fits into his goals. And because I know Matt personally, I know that's because he's not interviewing for a new position. He actually recently got a promotion at his current company, so we're so proud of you, Matt, for that. And lastly, when Matt talked about music, that wasn't part of his Tell Me About Yourself answer. I'll be adding Matt's song recs to the playlist, and I want to highlight his band Pagoda Peak, so I'm adding their song Use Your Turn Signal to the playlist. Make sure you check it out. Matt is not only a great musician, but I'm sure you can tell he's also just a really nice person and a great friend. Okay, guys, so that is how to answer Tell Me About Yourself in an interview. I hope you enjoyed this one. Have a great week. Have fun listening to Interview Hype, and I'll see you in 2 weeks from now for our all-industry interview prep checklist. Thanks for listening.
I hope you found today's episode helpful. Career Composer will be back with a new episode every other Monday. And if today's topic really resonated with you, I hope you'll consider leaving a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. Reviews will really help this podcast grow so I can keep bringing you the career content that you want. You can also email me at careercomposerpodcast@gmail.com with feedback or questions because I want to give you the career advice that you actually want to hear. That's all for now. Thank you so much for listening. I'll see you next time and have a great day.